Good morning, all of you. I hope all of you are doing well. I'm super excited to come live to talk about this topic because this is one topic that really interests me almost every single year when they come out with the new immigration plan. I hope you guys are able to see me and hear me properly because I'm using a new setup. So I hope everything is audible and visible properly. All right. So, 1st of November every year, the government of Canada, the federal government of Canada, comes out with its annual immigration level plans for the next year and the next 2 years. So, basically, it's a three-level immigration plans that the government is come up with. And as always, this time as well, the government has come out with a glorious plan. And I am sure you have seen already a lot of videos where people are super excited that the government has is sort of planning to invite over 500,000 immigrants over the next 2 years. Everything will go up, and the situation on paper should look extremely super bullish, right? So, which is why I took a day to do my research, to do my fact findings, to connect the dots, and then to let you know how much of this is actually possible, realistically speaking. Because if you're watching this video from outside Canada, and if you're just taking like reading stories and watching YouTube videos, you need a lot of clarity, in my opinion, to read between the lines to really understand how much of this is actually possible and what kind of benefit you as a potential express entry candidate or any federal economic immigration candidates would actually receive. So what is the news, and what are the numbers that we are looking at? So 463,000 admissions in 2023, 485,000 admissions in 2024, and 500,000, like 500,000 admissions in 2020 by 2025. That's the target. Looks amazing on paper. Why not? And the good part is that the government has said that majority of these admissions will take place via economic immigration program, via express entry, via PNPs, and all those kind of programs, which is amazing. And they have decided to cut down on asylum and the refugee claimants, which I do not know good or bad. I have to uh, understand that aspect a little bit, because the government is taking in refugees from Ukraine in a different manner. Government is taking refugees from Afghanistan in a different manner. So, which will be cut short, which will not be cut short? Because on the one hand, the government is saying that it is going to take an unlimited number of refugees from Ukraine, and on the other side, if they say that their priority is to cut down on the refugees, I am not as of right now personally sure how that economics is going to play out. So we will leave that part out of the discussion. Let's focus on economic immigration. So this is the target level, right? So, and from where these people will come from, the new admissions will come from predominantly from express entry and PNPs, and from parents and grandparents sponsorship, but predominantly from federal economic immigration programs such as express entries and PNPs, which is good for majority of you that maybe are watching this video. So obviously the express entry targets go up, PNP's target go up, and so there will be a little bit of increments about the targets of the parents and grandparents sponsorship as well. I am not quoting the specific express entry number to go up, the PNP number to go up, because the best source for you to get a real idea about all those numbers are not CIC News, but go to the Government of Canada website and look at the ministerial instructions, look at their official press release. Do not look at the inflated, like superficial kind of news. Go to the government website and read the news there directly. You will get an idea about the exact numbers. But that's not the topic of the video. I'm sure you have already watched a lot of videos, have seen those numbers already. If you've seen the topic of the video, I'm going to analyze and give you an update, so in a sort of my analysis as to where do I think will this whole situation lead to. As an immigration consultant, I should be very happy to know that, well, 500,000 people are going to come by 2025, then I should get a lot of new clients, right? But let's talk real for now, right? So what will be the short-term impact? So the short-term impact will be, in my opinion, is that express entry draw size will go up probably. I do not think there will be a weekly express entry draw or something like that, as many people have started asking me since yesterday. I do not think any of those things are happening, but I do think the draw size of express entry to go up, and by virtue of which, obviously, the CRS to come down. That will definitely be a short-term impact. And by short-term impact, Do not please think that I'm talking about a week or 2 weeks thing. I'm talking about the next 6 months kind of a thing. That's the short-term impact. And PNPs should ideally go up as well, but there is a caveat that not many people are talking, or rather nobody is talking, that I'm planning to make you understand. So on paper, express entry draw size should go up, the number of invitations from PNP should go up, and obviously the parents and grandparents need to go up as well. But now let's talk about the reality for now. Let's try to look at the interpretation part of this thing. You cannot really segregate politics from immigration. And just so you know that immigration is a shared responsibility between the federal and the provincial governments of Canada, because the provinces identify the required skilled people based on their own criteria in some ways, which is why you have all those PNPs, right? And federal government also have their own express entry and all the other systems. So you cannot segregate provinces from the federal authority because it's a joint responsibility. That's on the fundamental basic, at the ideation level, you should understand that part. Now, let's talk about politics a little bit. Now, many of you do not know is that express entry, or the way the draws are being conducted these days, is not really the creation of our current liberal government. Express entry has been well thought out by the previous conservative government under Stephen Harper, and the government changed in 2015. And then when Justin Trudeau came to power, the current liberal government came to power in 2015, they implemented express entry. This does not mean that express entry is their brainchild. I'm not talking to you as a spokesperson of the Conservative Party of Canada. I do not support any political party of Canada. I am talking from a neutral citizen, from a neutral citizen's perspective as to what this would mean to you. So express entry is not a creation of this liberal government. It's been a creation, it's an ideation of the conservative government. It's being implemented by the current liberal government because there was a change of power in 2015. So that's the background part of it. Now, when the liberal government came to power, they were just continuously increasing the immigration quota from 260,000, maybe about 2014, 2015. Government is talking about 500,000, literally double in 10 years down the line, right? Where will these people go? That's my basic question. Are you improving your healthcare, education, and the civic infrastructure for these many people to come? But I'm coming to those things later. But let's try to understand the politics. If you're following the Canadian politics, you should know that the Conservative Party of Canada, the official opposition party, was suffering to get their prominent leadership when they lost the last election. When Andrew Scheer lost the election, after that, there was a change of leadership quite a few times. And finally, on September 10th, they have got a leader that many people believe is going to be our next prime minister. Do I believe that? I don't know. But that person, who is the official, the official leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, the official opposition leader, has got an astounding majority and has been, regarded as the leader from September the 10th. That is going to create a real political crunch for the Liberal government. And if you know it, in the previous century, literally in the previous century, no minority government has served its full term. Justin Trudeau's government, this Liberal government, is a minority government. In the previous century, no minority government has served its full term, which is why Justin Trudeau had an election even during a pandemic. So as for all the political analysts, there is no doubt that this government will not survive till 2015, that official next federal election, particularly because it's a minority government and with a strong backing from the NDP, from the National Democratic Party of Canada. So if the NDP takes its support back on, uh, this government will have to will have to fall and will go for an election midterm, right? So if you're talking about the fact that the government is planning to admit over 500,000 people by 2025, my question to you is that will you be able to survive beyond 2023 or 2024? If history is anything to go by, you probably won't, right? As per the majority of the political analysts, there will be an election either in 2023 or 2024 early, depending on how many things play out. I'm not going too much in detail, but the question is, will you be able to survive till 2025 to have these many people admitted? That's the fundamental political questions. And if no, and if the conservatives come to power, I could tell you this immigration landscape is going to change. The immigration is the name conservative itself, and they act like conservatives. This immigration landscape is going to change. So if you are feeling super happy knowing the fact that, well, there will be a lot of admissions, hence my chance will come, and then I can sit, wait, and relax. This is not the time for that. Do not really rely too much on the number. Rely on your profile. Rely on the strategy that you have currently. Re-strategize it and act on it. That's why I talked about politics, which I really do not talk otherwise in this channel. That's on the political side of things, which is very important for you to understand. Second, you ask any Canadian, any PR, any worker, anybody that is living in Canada, you ask about our healthcare system. Our healthcare system is literally collapsing. It had got completely collapsed, like almost completely collapsed during COVID. And as of right now, even after living in a city, for example, if I have to give my personal example, I live in this particular city for the last 3 years, and before that I used to live somewhere else. I had a family doctor previously, but when I moved into this city 3 years back, till date I do not have a family doctor in this city. I have to drive 75 kilometers to my previous city to see my family doctor if there is a requirement. That's the situation of this healthcare, and I could tell you that I'm lucky enough to at least have a family doctor. I know many people that do not have a family doctor for last many years, and what this government is doing to fill in those spots. So if you're inviting more and more people, and if those people fall sick, fell sick, where will they go? Are you building enough hospitals? Do you have enough infrastructure to take admitted those people? The answer is really no. So instead of creating those infrastructure, if we talk about those massive numbers, those numbers make little sense to me. I do not have any reason to believe that they are really infrastructure wise well equipped to invite those many people. It is one thing to create a news and have that buzz and gain some political interest, but realistically speaking, if that many people start coming in, there is no hospital, there is no such there is not many family doctors. If you are watching this video from Canada, from inside Canada, make sure please you write a comment and and just let us know if I'm on the same track as you guys, right? Because I personally suffer, as a Canadian, I do suffer when I am ill, because most of the time I go to a walk-in clinic where there is a massive wait list. I go to an emergency if there is a requirement where there is a waiting time of 3 to 4 hours at least. And thankfully, with God's grace, I live in Southern Ontario. For somebody that is living in the remote part of New Brunswick, maybe on Newfoundland, or maybe in Nova Scotia, their situation is even worse. So where will this then the new people will go? If you are not creating required infrastructure and talking about inviting people, then it is not only disturbing the lives of Canadians, it is also potentially going to disturb the lives of everybody that is living there, everything, and trying to settle into this country. So that's something that is going to create a negative impact, in my opinion, on this kind of a massive immigration target. Second thing about the school, there is a lacking of school teachers all across Canada. So if you invite more and more people, where will those children go? There is no such space available, right? Because there is not much school construction that's going on, because there is a lacking of primary school teacher, there is a lacking of teacher. And teaching being a regulated profession, you cannot really hire teachers from outside Canada. Somebody has to be in Canada, have to go through the whole regulation process, and then will be able to teach. It's very similar to immigration. So where will you get additional teachers from? That's on the school side of thing. Let's talk about another important, super important thing, two things rather, because of which all the Canadians are currently suffering. That is your inflation and housing costs. Housing costs in Canada is probably the world's highest at this point in time, because majority of the new immigrants, when they come to Canada, they either go to Toronto or Greater Toronto area, Montreal or the surrounding cities, or Vancouver or Richmond or Surrey and all those kind of places. Barring that, I do not see people, unless and until you are being invited through Manitoba, Saskatchewan, or APP, you are not going to those kind of places, which makes sense. If you have your friends living in Mississauga, you end up coming to Canada and end up staying in Brampton. If your friends living in Richmond, you come to BC and then end up staying in Richmond. This creates a sort of cluster in those areas, and people are not going to are going to the rural areas, and which makes sense because there is no job on those areas, except a few, except a very specific few. So which means that if you are planning to invite more and more people, and obviously it goes without saying that those many people are going to be settling down in those very specific areas, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and all the surrounding cities, then the housing cost is even going to go up. There is not enough space to rent for those new people. How will you admit these many people? Right? So if you again, so my point is, it's one thing to talk about numbers, it's one thing to create a sort of an inflated situation for everybody to be feeling cheerful about. It's another to be to look at the real numbers, to look at the civic infrastructure, to look at our fundamentals as a country, and then try to analyze those numbers. And once you start doing that, these numbers will make little sense to you. I talk a lot of non-immigration things today because everything is sort of interlinked. And unless and until, as I'm saying, you live in Canada, you will not be able to make a draw a direct correlation with what I'm saying. But this is super important for you to understand, not just reading through those fragmented numbers. I am not personally sure how those numbers is going to play out 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line. But I do believe that in the short term, the express entry draw size will probably go up. The PNP numbers will probably go up. Now, coming back to PNP, to understand is that majority of the provinces, now this is also not many people are talking about, majority of the provinces were actively inviting people, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta. These are all predominantly conservative parties. These are all being dominated by, historically been dominated by the opposition parties of Canada. So if the liberal government is saying, if the federal government is saying that, well, we are increasing the target for PNPs, that means that now the provinces are now capable or eligible or allowed to take more people. But are they going to take more people? I do not really think so. I really do not think so. Is that even if they increase the PNP numbers on paper, I personally do not think the PNP situation is going to change very, very drastically. I'll keep my fingers crossed and I will see how it goes. But logically, that do not make any sense. I do not think Alberta is going to change the whole situation. I do not think Saskatchewan will do that. I also do not think that Manitoba is going to drastically change its immigration quota now that because federal government is looking to have more immigrants, they will not do that. Right? So this really gives me a sort of feeling that this is more of a PR exercise to boost up the motivation before the election, because this current government is under extreme pressure because of the hyperinflation that we are facing, and majority of the analysts are saying that the country may go into recession in the short term. I again do not know what the short term means, 6 months, 3 months, or now, but the prices are way higher than what it was pre-pandemic level, and the kind of money that's been pumped into the system by the government, I do not think prices to fall drastically as well, and this is creating problem for everybody. Most importantly, for those that are coming from outside Canada. For example, if you're coming from Africa, India, or anywhere in Southeast Asia or Middle East, your currency is the dollar, the Canadian dollar is stronger, right, for majority of you that are coming. So if you are bringing, for example, 10 lakh rupees from India or 15 lakh rupees from India, that is nothing in Canada. Your money will just drain out within a span of few months, which means that majority of the skilled immigrants that are coming without a job will have to work in survival jobs such as Tim Hortons or McD's and gas stations and all those things. Which also means that if the government is on the one hand saying that it needs more and more skilled people to fill in the skilled vacancies, but those skilled people are not getting enough job when they come in because they have to survive for the initial few months. That's not really making sense to me. At this point in time, probably it does make sense to strengthen our country's fundamentals first, and then bump up the numbers and jump up the numbers. It is definitely amazing to see that the government is trying to invite more and more skilled resources, qualified resources, fresh young blood to boost in our economy, to boost in our labor force, because ours is one of the oldest population on the planet. I'm aware of that, but at the same time, I do not think it is a right on the government's part to sort of create a kind of enthusiasm amongst people's mind, and then they are leaving everything, coming to Canada, and then they see that there is a huge um, hike in prices. The prices of everything is so very high. They're not able to afford housing. They're not able to get access to the free healthcare that many people advertise about. I'll make a separate video on the healthcare of Canada, the current situation of healthcare of Canada. I think you will find this useful, but this is what my whole analysis is. So if you are an express entry or any other PNP aspirant, do not think that your chances of acceptance has suddenly increased because of this. new immigration quota announcement. That's the end point. Do strategize and re-strategize your profile every single time that you think it is important. And last but not the least, based on my experience of working, and at least for the last few months of experience, if you will, the one thing that is being working, and lot of not so good profiles have been accepted. Some of them, I don't mind in saying, are my clients as well, with whom I was not super confident that they will be accepted or not, but they are, not one but many. That's study visa. Government strategy now is get more and more temporary residents in place, have them acquainted with the Canadian temperature, weather, and environment, job market, atmosphere, everything, and then they see whether they are ready to take their permanent residency or not. So students, if you are 40, 45, 30, 35, 20, 25, does not matter. If you have a little bit of financial ability, financial capability, study is the only thing that is going to work, unless and until your CRS is sitting at maybe 480, 490 plus, right? That's it from my side. I do not want to disappoint any of you. I'm sure most of these videos are talking about the glorified picture, but I do not personally see sitting in this country that our fundamentals are currently that glorified to be able to sustain this kind of a number. And since most of my viewers are watching this video from outside Canada, and being an immigrant, I do understand myself that when we leave the country and go to a new country for our with the anticipation of a better standard of living, better children, better future for our children and everything else, we deserve better. At this point in time, I will keep my fingers crossed. I'll take a look at the draws, and I will also take a close look at the politics, and we'll try to talk more and more about politics and how that is being playing an extremely interlinked role uh, with immigration, because you cannot segregate politics from immigration. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you need my professional assistance with immigration, a lot of you are sending me mails, so and asking like, how can I start working with you? The first step is a professional consultation. I do not prefer to take a client without a consultation, mm, because I personally speak with all the clients, at least 99% of them, before I end up working with. It is important for you to judge my ability, and it is also important for me to see the profile in detail before we start working with. Everything is available on our website, www.nuvonation.ca. If you need assistance, drop us a line. Shall be more than happy to assist. Enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy the rest of the week, and I will see you in the next one. Next one will be the healthcare of Canada, and you will get a realistic picture on that as well. Hope this helps. You guys in the next one. Bye now. Cheers.